When you hear the name Timbuktu, what do you think of?
People often use the phrase, "What's your Timbuktu?" to mean where's the furthest place you would like to go. It has reached such a mythical status that people even argue if it exists. Well, let me assure you, it does. And I've been there. Back in May 2024, I went to Mali in order to visit Timbuktu. Now, part of the reason why it has such a legendary status is because of how difficult it is to get there.
For starters, Mali is in civil war and the Timbuktu region is occupied by terrorists.
The trip was initially supposed to be in October the previous year, but had to be postponed because of heightened terrorist activities. Additionally, there are only two main ways to get to Timbuktu. Firstly, you can take a 3-day boat ride through bandit-infested territory and hope not to get kidnapped. Or take a once-a-week plane from the capital Bamako, which returns immediately upon touching down. So you have to stay 7 days in terrorist land. So we decided to gather a group of crazy adventurers, pay a crazy high price to charter a private plane, and hope that the pilot is brave enough to wait for us. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. More on that later. The group met up in Bamako, and because of unsurprising last-minute changes to the plan, we had a few days to explore the country. Mali is a very culturally rich place, so let me take you through the places we saw. Here's our wonderful guide, Abdullah, born and bred in Timbuktu. We went to the Senghor region and visited some villages. Local kids just started following us. This was an interesting museum showing the history of the region. Many of the buildings here are made of mud, a unique architectural style, like this mosque here. We were lucky to be at Senghor on a Monday for the Monday market. One of the best ways to have a legit African experience is to walk through the markets and take in the sights, sounds, and smells. Besides Timbuktu, another site I really wanted to visit in Mali was the Djenné Mosque. It's the biggest site in the world built in this truly unique style and a UNESCO site. However, the entire region was impossible to visit due to security reasons. Fortunately, we got to visit another mosque that looked the same, just way smaller. In fact, it was built by the same family that built the Djenné Mosque. I could settle for this. Then we went to see how local artists do their artwork. Usually, a place like this in other countries would be considered a tourist trap, but here, we willingly bought a piece of artwork which is now hanging beautifully at home. This restaurant looked nice, but it was so hot we stayed indoors and did not enjoy this view. Mali was colonized by the French, so we went to see a couple of local government buildings in the colonial style and visited another village. This one is known for making calabash art, a type of fruit that is hollowed, carved, painted, and decorated. Now, Mali is a predominantly Muslim nation, but here we saw a rare church and they were having a service when we entered. This local household, filled with lots and lots of animals, invited us in to see how they make millet wine and offered us some. Let's just say you need to be brave to like it. One of our dinners was special. A couple in our group was celebrating their anniversary in Mali, and our guide hired some local musicians for a performance. Back in Bamako, we visited the local market and saw some very interesting witchcraft supplies. Then we checked out a metal recycling yard, which although sounded boring, was quite an eye-opener. The hard-working men here stripped metal and physically worked on them under the hot summer sun. This is gonna be one of the most laborious jobs out there. So, time for the main event. Everyone was anxious, nervous, and on high alert. When we arrived at Timbuktu, we were escorted by 20 over police bodyguards dressing up like a SWAT team. Not sure if their presence made us feel safer or more worried, but that feeling was quickly replaced by a sense of awe and surrealness. I can't believe I'm actually stepping in the legendary Timbuktu. Local vendors were trying to sell us a t-shirt which says,
I have been to Timbuktu and back.
real self-awareness. Abdullah brought us around his hometown, telling stories and showing us the points of interest. We had to rush because we only had about 4 hours. Here's why. Remember the plane we chartered? Well, our pilot wasn't keen on waiting a few hours for us at Timbuktu due to security reasons. However, he was willing to fly there, pick us up, and immediately leave. So, we took a commercial flight there, no footage by the way because we weren't allowed to, and had a few hours to see the place to be on time for our rendezvous with the pilot. It was an intense experience. But we still managed to visit the University of Sankore, one of the most famous buildings in history, and had a lunch with performance by the locals. And of course, we always have time for shopping for the missus.
To be fair, I wanted a souvenir too.
When our return flight finally took off, we all heaved a sigh of relief. That night, we went camping and celebrated the fact that we survived Timbuktu. However, that wasn't the end of the trip. The next morning, we did a nature hike, some more hungover than others, to a viewpoint. Then we were treated to an epic performance by an indigenous tribe.
They dressed up in traditional tribal costumes that they wore when doing the rain dance and communicating with the deities.
Such an awesome end to an awesome trip.